All right, welcome back to Locked In. Arsenal versus Newcastle. Arsenal, I hate to say it, they're actually a good team, guys. All right. I'm finding it hard. You know what you can do to help me through this tough time? Subscribe to Lockdown Sports. Let's get into the video. All right. Arsenal are very good. All right. Defensive resilience. All right. That is why they are so much better than the A- team they were last season. All right. You look at last season, you look at that midfield. All right. I'm not going to say his name, but player X, you decide who that was. All right. You decide the man that might be convicted of some alleged charges. All right. But you decide whoever that is. He was a great football player. All right. That had to be said. All right. And Declan Rice, everyone is saying Declan Rice has revolutionized this team. And he's been great. He's been great. Signing of the season, can't argue with you there. All right. But when you look at what they were last season, is it really that much of a difference? They're still an excellent set piece team. There's so many other factors contributing to their defense being so resilient. I don't think it's solely Declan Rice. Let's get into the numbers. All right. The best defensive team in the league. All right. 22 goals conceded this season. By far the best. Liverpool just behind them with 24. All right. You look at the XG allowed. All right. I know you hate analytics, but we're going to go into it. Only 18 expected goals allowed. All right. That means their defense is actually better than what the goals show that they've conceded. And I know you don't like XG. All right. It's shot quality and shot quantity, but you look at just the quantity. Let's focus purely on the quantity. The number of shots Arsenal concede, 8.5 per game. The second best in the league, bar City. And City are another level when it comes to restricting the opposition, having the ball in the final third. That's understandable. But you look at the issues Arsenal might have had in another season, all right? Goalkeepers rotating. Zinchenko still being a member of your club, all right? These are real issues that your club might have. But when you have a defensive system, Saliba Gabriel, all right? Ben White, the auxiliary right back. These are the factors on top of your new signing, Declan Rice, that make the difference. And on the flip side, let's talk about Newcastle. We'll get into the prediction later. If you're lazy, you can skip to it right now. Here's the time, all right? But Newcastle, it's the exact opposite. You talk about hiding your flaws with Arsenal have done with Declan Rice. The goalkeeper injury to Nick Pope earlier this season makes it very clear what can happen to your team potentially. And everyone was really worried at the start. You look at the NBA, you lose your franchise point guard. You're hoping for a draft pick. You're hoping for a draft pick next season that'll get you back up there. But football isn't like that. 11 players, 11 variables. Let's look at Real Madrid, all right? Courtois out. Let's look at Newcastle. Nick Pope's out. Both teams, Newcastle's not doing very well, but Dubravka, he's been great since he's come into the team. The best keeper, if you look at the advanced analytics, alongside Vicario. And then you look at the flip side with Real Madrid. The team success is there, but Lunin, Kepa, Chelsea's finest, are these the guys you'd trust? Are these the guys that are going to get the job done? And they're flawed, but it doesn't hurt the bottom line, and that's team success. So for all the talk I've seen on Twitter this week about this player doesn't do this player doesn't do that, all right? It is still very much a team game, and I'm a little bit on the fence with what everyone's saying about Harry Kane, but when it comes to goalkeepers, they're nowhere near as important as I previously thought. And this is the story with Newcastle. Injuries, all right? An injury to Nick Pope, all right? And there's so many other injuries in this squad, and it makes you wonder, all right? Is this nature? Is this nurture? Let's go through the list, all right? Sandro Tonali, gambling. Now, this is definitely nature, not nurture. Callum Wilson, a misdiagnosed pec injury that they thought was a shoulder injury. All right? That's on you, medical staff. Joel Linton with a thigh injury. Nick Pope, fair enough, the shoulder injury. You can't plan for shit like that. Anderson with a lower back. Matt Targett with a thigh injury. Willock with a lower leg injury. Isaac, he's always injury prone. I'll allow that. And Shah's got a hand injury. But half those injuries, guys, you talk about the hard running game that Eddie Howe wants to play, that Newcastle fans adore. All right? There is a downside to this, all right? When it happens overnight, there's a natural long-term regression, and you're seeing a bit of that, all right? The squad depth isn't there. We thought it might hurt them in the Champions League, and for a couple of rounds of the Champions League, it was all rosy, all right? You verse PSG at home, you beat them. You go to Milan and you get a draw, but now you're seeing long-term, all right? You're seeing the regression to the mean, all right? You're seeing a Newcastle team that's back to normal, all right? Where they belong, mid-table, and I love it. All right, let's get into it. Prediction time. Saturday night at the Emirates. Arsenal at home. But this isn't your normal 5-6 run-of-the-mill win like we've seen over the past month. And I hate that a 5-6-0 win has become the norm over the past month. That's ridiculous. But anyways, Newcastle, all right? They've lost a lot of soldiers, but the soldiers that they do have execute the defensive intensity. Maybe not the game plan, but the defensive intensity, all right? So you're not going to see a blowout here. For Arsenal, you look at a low block, all right? It's yet again, this is a different level in terms of a defensive challenge they'll have, all right? You look at what they'll face. Odegaard is so key to getting the ball around, in and around the final third. Now, Newcastle, if they score, I'd be very surprised, all right? There's no out-and-out 9, all right? Wilson's injured. Isaac's injured. You're looking at a Newcastle team that's probably going to line up with Anthony Gordon up front. And as good as that is for my fantasy team, with the chance of him slotting in a goal, they're not going to score. They're not going to score. And Arsenal, like I said, the defensive resilience of Newcastle will keep them out, but not all day. I'm predicting 1-0 for Arsenal. And Martin Odegaard, this isn't something I feel in my heart, but if you want to prove the naysayers wrong, this is the sort of game where you need to be at a man of the match caliber. All right. All right. That's another week of Locked In. Subscribe if you haven't already. All right. And I need to remind you, I reminded you last week about Man City. All right. The Champions League. All right. Arsenal this year, that not only have they been invited to the Champions League, they've made the round of 16 and they're probably going to make the quarters. All right. So the other 7 teams. All right. I'm going to have to outsource this to you guys because, you know, they've removed me from the Champions League party, but I'm going to have to outsource this to you guys. You can't let Arsenal win a Champions League, all right? It gives too much validation to what is almost going to be a failed project, okay? You look at this season, if they don't get any silverware, you're looking at 1 or 2 more years with this short-minded, fickle nature that directors have. Arteta's going to go. So we just need to last 2 more seasons, guys, of this Arsenal revolution, all right? 2 more years. Stay tuned, stay locked in. Subscribe for more.